Hey everybody, welcome to the Media Goon Show. Another fun Friday, but this time I'm not alone like I was last week and I was just drowning. I have a really funny guy. I became buddies with him a few years ago. He's a retired independent wrestler. He's a food unboxer. He's become a darling of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast group. This guy is a hidden gem, and I wish he could do more. And I'm hoping that with all this YouTube stuff he's been doing and the groundswell he's getting behind him, that he does more. He's awesome. Let me bring in my buddy Joe, aka L Shoes.
Yo, yo, yo.
I hope that was a good enough intro for you.
I mean, let's get right to it. I am the Admiral of Awesomeness. I'm the Emperor of Entertainment. I'm the Colossus of Cool. I am the Lord of Legit, the King of Keeping It Real, and the Czar by far. I'm the superstar. I'm Yokozuna.
I was thinking about that. Like, you could do so many different gimmicks with Shu that you could just throw in. I love it, and you always keep it fresh. I love the fact that when you were, wrestling, that you had, 2 or 3 different gimmicks that you used.
Yeah, I progressed a couple times.
And it was great, and you filled in perfectly for it every single time. I loved it. I really got bummed that I never got to see you wrestle live, but I did watch a lot of YouTube stuff, and it was cool. Hopefully we might get like a one shot out of you, the one more match. Never know though, but
you never know. I mean, I don't know if I'd classify myself as retired. I think you need to have some success to retire from when you do it, but I'm sure at some point there will be something where I'm like, all right, fine.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago they had the Major Wrestling Figure podcast had the FWF live show, which was a great swerve where we thought Yokozuna was going to be involved in the match. Lights went out. Next thing we know, Yokozuna's laid out.
Laid out. It's funny because when I got the call to like the booking call, Matt and Brian called me. They were at Impact tapings. So they were together. They FaceTimed me. They're like, hey, we need you to keep this date open and come to New York to film this. And I was like, is this a rib? Like, are you guys, why would you book me for a wrestling show at this point in my life? And then they're like, no, it's going to be this whole thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then Nick Stapp, the abominable CPA, got in my head. He's like, dude, I think they changed it. I think you're going to have a real match. I was like, oh God, like, please, no. So I was just, listen, once I was there, I would have done whatever they wanted. If I would have had to wrestle a match, I would have found the way to get through it. But I was happy I didn't have to wrestle a real match at that point.
I mean, I ordered it because I like supporting Matt and Brian. I like supporting, like, I go to Cap when they had shows. Mm-hmm. I love the independent scene, and it was always great. And it's always great to see like the up and comers, like all the guys that are on AEW now. Yeah, that came through the Cap. For Cap, for people that know, is Create a Pro, which is Brian Myers, formerly Kurt Hawkins and Pat Buck's wrestling school with Wrestle Pro and Create a Pro in Jersey, right?
Well, there's the Jersey school was like the Wrestle Pro Academy, and then Brian and Pat were partners in the Long Island school. So Brian's school is actually in Hicksville. So if you're looking to be a pro wrestler, why not learn from the dude who's been there and head over to Create a Pro? It's in Hicksville, 95 Engineers Drive.
See, this guy is a professional. This is why I want to have him on more. So Joe's also a huge Mets fan. I just wanted to promo him as much as possible, so that way we bounce around. More about the inner workings of Shoes, and what he's been through. One day I was on Twitter, and I was trying to give away my Mets tickets. I just couldn't go the next day, and I said, anybody that follows me, hit me up, and you can have my tickets. Don't worry about them; they're free. I'll hand them off to you. Shoes hit me up. And
I did.
I met you at Dunkin' Donuts on Woodhaven Boulevard.
Dunkin' Donuts on Woodhaven and Rockaway.
And I thought it was just going to be a handoff. We ended up talking, what, half an hour, 45 minutes?
Probably about that, yeah.
And then we found out we both went to the same high school.
Yep.
Of course, I'm older. But it was cool. It just shows you like what the Mets community, how it cross paths and you meet people that you don't know, otherwise.
I think that's true in actually any fandom. Whether you're a Star Wars fan and you're hanging out at Star Wars message boards, or where you and I both see it now is if you're involved in the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Patreon Facebook group, you see a lot of people who are from all over the country, but they had this shared similar interest, and now they're becoming friends through that. I mean, there's 3 guys in there who just started a podcast, which is basically a recap of the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, but they had never met each other before, didn't know each other. They're all from different parts of the country, and they just started a podcast together, and they actually just got together for the first time in person, hung out for the weekend for the live show that they just had in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that we were at a couple weeks ago. So seeing stuff like that is really cool, and like seeing it play out in front of you is fun.
Yeah, that's like with the 7 line, when we travel all over the place. With the QBC, I've met a lot of people through the QBC. A lot of my close friends now volunteer with us. Mm-hmm. So like I have my staff, just like how you guys are with the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast. You guys have all, got tighter and help each other out like crazy. And it's the same thing with the QBC. It's great like that you can find fellow fans and become, really good friends and family. And funny enough, I actually ran into one of the MWO guys last year at a flea market upstate.
Really?
Yeah, Husvar. Out of nowhere, I'm walking around with D-Hap. Dennis has a podcast. Mm-hmm. And as we're walking around, we run into Zombie Sailor, who's set up selling stuff.
Okay.
So the crazy thing is he went from selling stuff at the flea market to having his own figure line, which is crazy.
What Zombie's done, like as an entrepreneur of vintage toys over the past couple of years, if you guys have followed him or know who he is, you can see him on Instagram at Zombie Sailor Toys, is just phenomenal. He's been unearthing rare vintage toys from all eras, like out of nowhere. And then he's built that into this thing now where he's got his own line of retro wrestling figures coming out, all completely licensed, of some of like the great superstars today and of yesteryear. And they look absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And, this is what we're talking about with the fandom and our friendships and supporting each other. If Zombie didn't find the Major Figure Wrestling Podcast and Brian and Matt, would he have that line? He would still have his vintage stuff where we sold, but I don't know. It's like with the 7 line, it just kept growing and growing because we became more and more friendly and more fan, like my wedding. Most of the guys that were in my bridal party as my groomsmen were from the 7 line. So it's just crazy that, from going from just a couple of people, hey, we're just going to hang out once in a while to being friends. Same thing like with you. We had a half an hour conversation over going out with going to a Mets game with tickets. And, we became friends, we don't get to hang out, but.
No, I moved far away.
You were smart. You got away from it really quick.
I don't do winters anymore.
Smart man.
Anything under 70 degrees at this point, to me, I feel like I'm going to die. I do die a little bit on the inside, but physically, I feel like I'm actually in the process of doing it.
Well, that's why when you said you got ribbed by going to Oshkosh on your way, like
100%.
Nobody told me it was going to be cold.
No, you know what the thing is? So like, I've lived in Florida now for basically the past 10 years. So when I hear springtime, I just figure it's springtime everywhere. So I get on a plane, I have my connecting flight in Detroit. I get off the plane in Detroit and I'm just like, oh God, why does this exist? This is not good.
They just wanted to get back at you.
They made me fly to New York to film FWF in February. So not only was it winter, but I had to go to New York, which I hate doing nowadays. So that was the ultimate rib.
Do you know I actually contributed something to FWF?
Yes, I do actually. I had gotten there the night before, so I went in to say hello as they were setting up. And Brian was like, "Hey, Media Goon dropped this off." And I was like, "What do you do with it?" Like, I thought it was like some kind of GI Joe laser cannon thing.
It was the Weather Dominator. I
Yeah,
heard
like,
it coming up, and I wanted
there's
you
a
to be
mass
cold.
device. So I was just like, I don't even know what this is. And they're like, "Oh, it's a production crane thing." And I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense than the Weather Dominator."
Yeah, it's a jib arm I've had for years that I haven't used in a while, and I watch Creative Pro TV a lot, and I'm like, you know what? I think this could help them out. Just set their production values up a little more. And who would have known that it ended up on FWF working with that? So
Yeah,
I was just glad to help out with that. I just switched back to the Mets game and watching the Philly Fanatic, the old Philly Fanatic that they can't use anymore.
yeah, I heard about that. Is a copyright or a trademark infringement or something?
The rights of the original design reverted back to the original designers.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
wild.
That's crazy. Imagine like losing Mr. Met like that.
I can't imagine that. Like at this point, remember like Mr. Met like just wasn't around for like years.
And then they
like,
brought back Mr. Met 2.0.
Yeah, and then like all of a sudden he had this great renaissance, and he was like, "Hey guys, just been here the whole time. You just haven't seen me."
With a family,
Yeah,
a wife.
Oh, that was, I love. There's like that one picture that's always online where they've got like the 3 kids. I'm like, this is beautiful. This is the American dream.
And then like me and my cousin Mets Police always joking around with Mr. Met 2.0, the one that the tongue shot out, the eyes were.
Yeah, that was the weird. That was around the time where we had like the Nickelodeon kids thing out behind the right field bullpen or something.
Yeah, with Ren and Stimpy running around and the slime. Yeah, that Mr. Met was so weird. It was like the older son of the original Mr. Met ended up going to college, coming back, and was just like a frat boy.
Yeah, the original Mr. Met, the one that they have displayed in the Hall of Fame with the creepy, realistic hands, that thing is terrifying. Absolutely frightening. His hands are so creepy. It's horrifying.
That would make a great horror movie. Imagine just going into the Mets museum, and all of a sudden he just grabs you.
Yeah, he comes to life. It would be like the scene in Arrested Development, if you ever watched Arrested Development, where maybe makes a horror movie out of seeing Lucille get up in the middle of the night looking for vodka. And it was the horror movie Gangy.
So I love picking your brain about everything else, but I guess we should talk a little Mets since we've been promoting.
That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, since we've been promoting that, we're going to talk Mets. What was the first memory you had of like either Shea Stadium or going to a Mets game or even watching the Mets?
Really, as far back as I can remember, I grew up in Ozone Park, so Queens boy. My dad, my mom, Mets fans. My uncle actually worked at Shea Stadium as in the ticket department or something. So we used to go to a lot of games when I was very young, and we would go through like the press entrance, and my uncle would meet us down there and like hand off tickets. And so as far back as I can remember, I've been a Mets fan, been going to games, but really like the first like conscious memory where I really understood like what was happening and like why it was happening was kind of the 88 season. So I want to say I was at like the final game of the regular season that year. And I remember, I want to say it was the Phillies, but I could be wrong. But I remember at the end, the Mets won and a bunch of balloons came up out of center field. And I'm like, oh, whose birthday is it? And my mom's like, no, it's just they're going to the playoffs now. I was like, well, obviously they'll win, until this scumbag Mike Scioscia came around and ruined everything. But so that's really where like it really began. And then just from like right from that point, I became baseball obsessed. Like I always say, baseball was like my first love in life, and just like anything I could get my hands on, whether it was baseball video games, baseball books, I would read anything that had to do with baseball. Like, so if my mom would take me to the library, she'd be like, oh, go get yourself a book, thinking I'm going to grab like the Boxcar Children or something age appropriate, and I'd come back with The Worst Team Money Could Buy by Clappish and John Harper. And I'd be like, oh, I got to read this book about how the Mets are awful and Kevin Elster's banging groupies in the clubhouse while on the DL.
The stuff that went on behind the scenes with the Mets was crazy. Imagine like they try to do it today with between the cell phones and
that's the thing. Imagine trying to do anything today. Like, I'm so glad Instagram didn't exist during my formative years.
I mean, like when I went to high school, you were probably catching the tail end of this, maybe even like cell phones coming out. But I had a beeper. And you had to hide, and you had to hide the beeper when you went into Malloy.
Yeah,
because if you saw the beeper, oh, you're a drug dealer, you know. But
yeah, I remember people having beepers when I was in like junior high. I didn't have my first cell phone until my freshman year in college, and that's around the time, like my senior year in high school, is when I felt like everyone started getting cell phones, and I was like that guy, like, who would ever need this? Like, why? Who would ever need a cell phone? Who would ever need to get in contact with people anywhere at any time? Just completely unnecessary. I think I was wrong.
But it sucks. It sucks being tied to the cell phone. You know, like with my job back in the day, if they couldn't contact you, they couldn't give you, more work to do.
Yeah.
Until you got back to wherever you were going. There's been times where now I go to pick up something or somebody, and I'm halfway there, they'll cancel it, send me to somewhere else, and then still send me. And it just like, it kills you. I kind of prefer the old, you can't find me days.
Yeah. And it's weird now, because even like, I think about like I just said, we used to go through the press entrance and like just stand around and wait for my uncle to come down with tickets. Like nowadays, like you wouldn't even do that. You'd be like, yo, text me when you're outside or something, like anything. You go pick up some. How many times when you were a kid, you ring the doorbell and be like, hey, can Media Goon come out and play? Like, and be like, the grandmother answering the door, like, oh, your fat friend from down the block is here. And
don't let him near the fridge.
Yeah, watch his hands. But like nowadays, it's like how many people even like know their friends' families or have gone to the house? It's just like, no, you sit in the car and wait for them to come outside.
Yeah. Who's honking? Why are you honking? Why can't they come to the door? Now you don't even have to do that. You just text, come out. I'm here.
A good story about this, though. So I do remember this. This is like a clear as day memory. I was probably maybe like 5-ish at the time, and we were going to a Mets game, Mets Dodgers at Shea Stadium. Go in there to meet my uncle. He's going to give us some tickets. And it was always box seats, orange seats at Shea Stadium. We always got like these great, because the Mets never sold out. Like, not, like you used to be able to walk up anytime, any day, whatever. So we're standing there waiting for my uncle to come down with the tickets. And I look over, and like I said, I'm a little kid at this point. And I see this guy who I immediately recognize from TV. And I look at my dad and I go, and I'm way too loud as a young child. And I go, Dad, it's the Slim Fast guy. And there's Tommy Lasorda, like standing there, like in uniform. I don't know if he was leaving tickets for someone or whatever the case may be, but it was Tommy Lasorda right there. And he obviously hears me yell that he's the Slim Fast guy. So he like turns around, he's got this stern look on his face, and he comes like marching over to me. And my dad's like getting ready to, at this point, like my dad was used to apologizing for me. But my dad was like shaking in his space boots, because it's like, it's Tommy Lasorda, number one. And then like my family's Italian. So it's like the Italian thing on top of that. He's like, oh, this old Italian grandpa man is about to lay into me. And he like looks at my dad and he like crouches down so he can look right eye level at me. He goes, you're damn right, I'm the Slim Fast guy. And I made a lot of money being that guy.
Hey, Shoes, just so you know, they just posted up another card break if you want to jump into it.
I do not. I can't get involved in that.
Yeah, they sucked me in. I always like, nope, never going to go into it. And then Brian and Paul just sucked me in.
So that was last year during quarantine. Brian, Papa Bear, Paul, and I have a group chat, and we were bored. And it turned out that a guy that Brian and Papa Bear went to high school with does card breaks. Like, that's his job now. He has he just was running card breaks. Now he has a physical brick and mortar shop out in Long Island somewhere. And we started jumping into these breaks just because, I mean, we had nothing else to do. And to watch like the card industry like boom, like, and not even like realize it was going on as like, because like we're all baseball fans. Everyone who was a baseball fan, especially in the 80s and 90s, like grew up collecting baseball cards. And then like you got out of it and you threw everything away or whatever. And it's just like all of a sudden we're like, oh, we're buying boxes, we're buying packs. We're now, oh, you know what? I want to own PSA graded stuff. It got out of control for a while. Although I decided during spring training last year, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy some Jacob deGrom rookie cards. I like Jacob deGrom. So I went out and bought like a stack of Jacob deGrom rookie cards. I've got a PSA 10. I've got BGS 9s. At some point I was getting like lots where I'd get like a couple PSA 9s for like $60. I think the most I paid for anything was like $50. And that one that I did spend $50 on last year just sold in an auction last week on eBay for $1,060.
Nice. I wasn't really into cards. When I was a kid, I was, I had like the 86, the 87, the 88s. Who was your favorite card when you were a kid? Like the one player that you always wanted from the Mets?
Well, my favorite player as a kid was Greg Jeffries. That was my guy. And for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of people around my age also had Greg Jeffries as their favorite. I had this conversation with Sal Licata through Twitter recently, and he was like, yo, Greg Jeffries was my dude too. And I was like, that's so weird and interesting, but like, it's like, he's such an obscure guy. I mean, he had all the hype. He was the big time prospect, but he, at the major league level, he really never put it together. I mean, he did have that run at the end of the 88 season where he looked legit, and 89, he was good. And you're like, okay, 90 should be the breakout, but like it never happened, not until he left the Mets anyway. But for as far as like the card I always wanted, it wasn't even really a Met. The card I always wanted, when I got really into collecting cards, for my birthday one year, my aunt bought me a subscription to the Beckett baseball card monthly magazine, the price guide. And I'd always look, and I always thought error cards were so cool. So there was like the upper deck reverse negative of Dale Murphy. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then there was the Frank Thomas rookie card with the no name on front. And I thought that was so cool. And like, oh, if I could pull that Frank Thomas card, I'll never have to worry about money ever again. But the one card that I always wanted was the 89 Fleer Billy Ripken. I guess they would call it the whiteout. It's not the whiteout card because there actually is a whited out version of it. But it's with the can I curse on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the fuckface card.
Because everybody knows about it. It's not, it's not like you're just making up something.
No,
it's a legit.
It's the Billy Ripken card where he's holding the bat over his shoulder, and one of his teammates had taken the liberty of, instead of his number being on the knob of his bat, it said fuckface.
That's such a great thing to do to somebody. Like, but you would think like the photographer would catch it.
Yeah, you would think someone would catch it, right?
I kind of understand it not being caught. Like today, everything's digital. Everything, you take a few different pictures. They were probably just like trying to push them through, not waste film, not spend too much money. But
think about like all the layers, though. It's the photographer. It's Billy Ripken himself. It's whoever those photos get sent to at the factory. It's the people who print those photos. It's quality control after the fact. It's just all the layers it had to make it through, and it still got through. And then actually last year I finally went on eBay and bought a Billy Ripken fuckface card just so I could say I have it.
How much did you get it for?
I like $20. I wasn't affecting my future college fund.
Hey, as long as you had as long as that, like, you got your quote unquote like mini holy grail.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Not everything in collecting, and I mean, you can look behind me. I got figures and a bunch of stuff. Like, obviously, I like collecting stuff. Not everything needs to be bought for, oh, I can't wait to sell this down the line reasons. Some stuff just has actual enjoyment of it. And owning a Billy Ripken fuckface card brings me actual, I look at that and I laugh. And I remember what it was like being 10 years old, thinking that it was so cool that a cuss word made it on a baseball card.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what the whole thing about collecting really, is the stuff that helps you, make memories and brings you back to the time of, hey, I remember when I got this. Like behind me, I have my Chris Flexen jersey that's signed by Chris, because we're buddies. And then I have Nimmo signed jersey when he came to QBC. And I went crazy collecting. I was like collecting everything. I'm sure like how crazy I am.
Well, I remember you had like basically a storage unit full of jerseys at one point.
I still do.
Oh, geez.
It's action figures, collectibles, and jerseys. And one of the collectibles I have is a replica Stranger Things bike.
Oh, geez.
Limited edition 500. I got $3.99 out of 500. And that was like the first one they came out with where you had to actually go onto a flyer and call up to order it. It wasn't like you could order it online. You had to call up like the old days.
Yeah.
And actually order it online and give you a credit card.
See, and that's the issue too. You're a lot like me where you have a lot of different interests. So it's, yes, I have a ton of Met stuff. Like I've got autographed baseballs, I've got old ticket stubs, and I have a Travis d'Arnaud signed jersey just because I found it for like $25 and I was like, this is really going to pay off when he turns into an all-star for this team. And that didn't happen, but just like when you have something you like and you want something to kind of memorialize. Like I'm also a big Pittsburgh Penguins fan, so I've got a bunch of Penguins stuff. And then I'm a big He-Man fan. I've got He-Man stuff and Thundercats and G.I. Joe and wrestling and, and candy because, I didn't get this body by not eating candy.
Well, it's because you're in training for your food unboxing and challenges.
Oh yeah, my big YouTube channel that I started in quarantine, youtube.com/Joe Shoes, where I just needed a hobby to keep myself busy while we weren't allowed outside. So I would just get some food and record myself eating it and trying to have a good time with it. And then I'd get some new toys and open them up and record myself doing that. So if you want to head on and see me do that kind of stuff and enjoy myself, then you feel free to do that. Please like and subscribe. And of course, we've got the big challenge coming up on June 11th in Baltimore, Maryland at Jimmy's Famous Seafood Major Wrestling Figure Podcast Live 8 show. And I'm going to be there trying to eat their seafood UFO sandwich, 7 pounds of seafood.
I heard it got sold out just because people want to see you do that.
I wouldn't be surprised if I was the biggest draw on the card. I mean, I'm sure people know Brian Myers. I'm sure they've heard of him. People may or may not have heard of Matt Cardona. But when they heard that the mighty Yokozuna was going to come and attempt to be the first person to ever successfully vanquish the 7-pound seafood UFO sandwich, then, I mean, that was like printing money. We couldn't print enough tickets quick enough to keep them in stock.
Even got me going down to Baltimore to go see it.
See, that's it. You put Yokozuna on a flyer, and the people flock from everywhere.
I gotta tell you, like with you doing the challenges and the unboxing on your YouTube channel, it's interesting. It's scary. It gives you all the emotions where you're watching and you're like, "Come on, do it!" Oh no, man, I can't believe he's doing it. Come on, you could do it. Come on, and then you're like, "Oh, is he all right? Is he getting wait? Is he getting salt poisoning? What's going on? Is he all right?"
So the first one I did is I guess the most popular one. There was a year ago, like really just over a year ago now. It was April 15th of last year. I did the McDonald's Twitter challenge that was going around at the time, and like I don't even know why it was a thing. It was just like some bored rich guy, I guess, had posted this picture of a whole bunch of McDonald's stuff on a tray, and was like, "Oh, you've got 90 minutes to finish this and you win $3,000. Could you do it?" And I'm like, I'm looking at it. One of my buddies had sent it to me. He's like, "Dude, you need to try this." And I'm looking at it. I'm going, I think I could do this. And it was 3 double quarter pounders, a regular quarter pounder, 2 large fries. I don't know if it was 20 or 40 McNuggets, maybe 20. And then 4 sodas, 4 regular sodas. And I was like, I think I can do this. And I was doing tape study the night before. I had set it up and I was doing a live YouTube. So I was like, oh, like, we're going to promote it, you know, like wrestling style. And the night before I'm doing tape study, I'm on YouTube just watching other people try it. And like everyone's just getting crushed. Like all these people thought they were going to like stroll right through it. And they just weren't even close, weren't even remotely on track to get it done. And like then there would be people who were like kind of on their way, and then they would end up giving up or throwing up. And I'm like, okay, like I put together a game plan in my head for how I would attack it. And I got down to the very last soda. But at that point, it just felt like there was a cinder block in my stomach. And there was just no place for this last soda to go. Like, picture like going outside and just pouring a bottle of water on the sidewalk. Like there's nowhere for it to go. So it just does this. And that was me with this last half a soda that I couldn't finish. And I'm just trying to get it down and there's just nowhere for it to go. So I end up puking my brains out live on YouTube. And actually, as far as like for the brand, you know, for me building an audience, I think that was probably the best case scenario. Like had I finished it, people would have just been like, oh, yay, he did it. Hooray. You know, and then we all move on. But there's this little fly in my house. I don't know how it got here, but it's right here because I got my lights on. So now it's right there. But had I just finished it, it just would have been like, oh, cool, he did it. And everybody would have went about their day. But then when I started puking, people started doing screen captures and making it into GIFs. And then they were doing they were layering the Vince McMahon audio from Beyond the Mat onto it. Oh, he's gonna puke. So they like all these like fun engagement opportunities on social media came across, and I was able to share them and, you know, bring some views and some traffic and get some new subscribers out of that from just doing that. So, I mean, if I got to puke every day, I guess, you know, that's where we are.
How many subscribers do you have now?
I'm over. I just broke 1,800.
That's nice. It was hard for me to, when we started this QBC channel, I kept promoting. We have a good amount of followers on Instagram and Twitter between my brand and the QBC brand and everything. And it took like 2 weeks to just even get to 300. And
yeah, it's very hard. I got to 1,000 rather quickly, and which I was surprised about because that's more followers than I have on Twitter or Instagram. So I had 1,000 on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of people, I guess, just watch YouTube videos and enjoy a fat guy eating shrimp. And but like after that, it was kind of weird where I went from like 1,000 to 1,500 really quick, and then it just stalled out. And then I went to, 1,600, then back down to 1,500 as YouTube does their audits and cleans their bot accounts, I guess, or spam accounts. And so I was like up and down. But now the more I am seen, or the more involvement I have with Matt and Brian and the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, people are taking a little bit of a liking to me. I like to think I'm pretty funny. I like to think I'm pretty entertaining. So, and I'm not trying to be something I'm not. I'm shoes. If you like it, cool. You don't have to. But if you do, please hit the subscribe button. That's where I'm at. And I guess more and more people have been liking it. So that's fun.
Well, that's what I always liked about you. You're genuine. What you see is what you get. And I've always had a blast talking to you and, tweeting at you. And there was a while that, like, I think you were too busy. You weren't on social media too much. I was like, where the hell's Shoes? And then you pop back up again. I was like, oh, great. Now I can talk to him some more. Because I had your phone number at one point. I have no idea what I did with it.
It's the same. No, I don't remember that. I was probably just working a lot. I do have a real job. Being Shoes is very difficult, very busy, very evil, very nice. Just like my man Dan has.
I was gonna say Shoeshausen.
Yeah, we just out here trying to fill this sack of money.
Human money.
Human money. We're not above donations. Hit me on Venmo. Let's fill it up.
So like I was trying to think like how I actually met Brian. I thought it was through the 7-Line. Then I remembered I met Brian through you. You actually brought him to the QBC.
So I didn't bring him to the QBC. He was there with his brother, and I was there with my other buddy Gomez. And Brian and I were like, we weren't even like really tight at that point. Like at that point he had gotten released from WWE for the first time. And we knew each other. We had been on a couple shows together, but we weren't like cool. And then but even I used to bust his balls on Twitter even before I really knew him, because when they had SummerSlam in New York one year, he got sent to Yankee Stadium to do an appearance with like the Big Show and a couple other people. And there's like this photo of him with like this Yankee jacket around. And Brian was always like super Mets fan. And on Twitter was like actively always a Mets fan. Like even when he was in WWE, he was always sending out Mets tweets. So I like followed him. I'm like, oh, he's like an actual fan. Like, that's cool. And then when that photo of him in the Yankee jacket popped up, I like saved it, screenshotted it, like put it in a safety deposit box. And then like every chance I would get, I would like tweet it at him or something. And he would like get so hot about it too. He would get so hot. And there was one time I remember I was going to when the Mets, I don't know if they still do them. They used to do like the free shirt Fridays. Mm-hmm. So there was one time where they were doing John Buck shirts for that magical half a year that John Buck was on the team.
I actually have his uniform from the Colorado game that he had such an awesome game.
Why would you own that?
Because I'm insane like you.
That's absolutely ridiculous. What a horrible purchase.
I got 700 jerseys. Leave me alone.
So, but like, I was like, I wrote something about going to the game. I was like, oh, free shirt Friday, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, what is it tonight? And I was like, oh, it's a John Buck shirt, so you could wear it under your Yankee jacket.
Let's see. That's the other thing. When Brian was wrestling, I think it might have been NXT. He had the 7-Line tights.
Yeah,
I actually have those 7-Line tights, and then I bought Darren as a present the other 7-Line Piazza tights that Brian.
Yeah, he had those.
So I gave those to Darren, so that way when he opens up the 7-Line Saloon, he has something. And I got it because I have like the whole skull baseball bat 7-Line design, like with the jackets and stuff. So I'm like, oh, this is cool with this too. So yes, another purchase I just out of left field.
I listen, I know people collect everything. It's just, like, I mean, I don't have the interest in owning other wrestlers' gear. But people collect everything. It's no different than owning a jersey, at the end of the day, when you think about it.
Well, the reason I bought it is because it was Mets, 7-Line.
Yeah.
Brian, it just
hit all the boxes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just something cool to have. And then, becoming buddies with Brian made it even like cooler. So like the Chris Flexen jersey, being buddies with him, I have that. So, and we hang out when he's around. So it's like another thing that, all right, cool. I got his jersey. I hang out with him. He's
pitching tonight for the Mariners. He's doing pretty good so far this season.
He's doing phenomenally. He did great in the KBO too.
Yeah, I got really into the KBO last year. When there was nothing else going on, it was like I was just starved for baseball. So I would watch it every day. I'd go on and like I wouldn't watch it live because I wasn't waking up that early, but I would go back and watch it on demand, whatever that day's game was. I became a diehard NC Dinos fan. And to sit there and after all that time of being a fan, like, how it is when you're a fan, you eat, sleep, and breathe with your team. You go through the rigmarole every year. And to be a lifelong NC Dinos fan like I was, and then win the Korean championship and that giant Legend of Zelda sword at the end. Like this was all I ever wanted in life. This was it. This was the apex of my sports fandom, was seeing my team, the NC Dinos, win a giant sword on a pitching mound.
I was very upset that my team, the Doosan Bears, didn't win. you know, it was great to see Chris pitch so well for them, but I was very upset that they didn't win it. But it was great seeing the Legend of Zelda sword get pulled out.
Like all of it, and you know, like as an American fan who I will openly admit, like I'm not paying attention to the KBO under normal circumstances. I'm not paying attention to Nippon in Japan. I'm like, it's hard enough watching 162 games of your actual team. And just like all of a sudden at the end, they bring out this giant sword and I'm like, wait 1 second. You're telling me that the trophy for this league is a giant sword? Like even the ESPN announcers had no clue what was going on.
Supposedly that wasn't the real trophy though. There was like a real trophy.
There is like a real trophy that actually looks like a trophy. This was because it was something with the owner, like owned some other company where the logo is like a sword or something. So they just unsheathed this massive sword before they even got like the real trophy out there. And then like the team gathered around it and held it up because they had the power. And now they were the holders of the secrets of Castle Grayskull.
That was awesome. I couldn't believe it. You know, I saw that live too. For some reason I was up to watch it. So is this your buddy Gomez that you were talking about?
Yeah, that's him. Hey, yeah, Gomez.
He said, yeah, baby, we had a good time.
Yes.
And you know, back then when we were just starting the QBC, it was cool to have guys like you around because you had the you know, the Mets fandom and the fun, and you even got into the dating game. We had the 7 Lion QBC dating game.
The very first. I want to say that was the first QBC. I
think so. They're all like merged together.
Yeah, I think that was the first one. So that would have been like 2014. 14. Yeah. So that was 2014, and Darren was putting out the calendars at that point, and it was like, hey, you want to be in the dating game? I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So I like to just sign the paper, like whatever. And I actually got called for it, and
I had nothing to do with that at all.
Oh, what a rib! I didn't know it was fixed.
Oh yeah, I wanted somebody that had some personality that I knew could handle having questions up there. So
I'm the professor of personality. I went up there, and I just had a good time with it. Like, you know, it was what it was. I didn't win. I thought I should have won. I thought my answers were the best.
Oh, we want to talk about the answers? I actually have the video.
That's right. You do have the video. That's yes.
I sent it to you and Brian, but I have it queued up right here.
Oh, let's see it.
And Joe, we can actually talk about it.
Got a title page too.
I'm for people who third bachelor. Yeah, it's not bachelor degrees. I'm Joe from Ozone Park. I'm a professional wrestler.
If you could dress up as any MLB mascot, which one would it be and why?
So going to go with Mr. Met because we are at a Mets convention. And I feel like that's a safe route to getting home tonight.
100%.
Also because I have a giant ego that would fit inside that giant baseball.
Perfect.
Okay, question number 2. If I called you at 4 a.m. and I invited you to attend a Come As You Are party, what would you look like when you arrive?
Listen, I'm not coming as I am. It takes a lot of time putting this together. So, we're going to wait for me to come.
Question number 3. To become one of the 7 Line calendar girls, I had to send in photos of myself that were used for voting. Say you are auditioning for a male version of the calendar, what would your audition photo look like?
For me, I'm in a fireplace on a Mr. Met skin carpet, laid out, chest hair ablaze, wine, maybe some cheese. And there's probably going to be a blue and orange t-shirt. But you know, that can come and go, depending on how much wine I have.
I think those are great answers.
They were awesome, and that's why I think you should have won.
I definitely got hosed, but like you said, this was all a work, right? It was set up that I was in it to begin with, and
I was hoping that you were going to win. So I figured you had the most personality.
I could have found love. Who knows?
You would still be in New York, though.
I love love, and it's a shame that my shot at love was just poured out on the floor right in front of me.
Well, maybe we'll do it again at a QBC. You never know. But I've been sitting on that video for years.
I didn't know it existed until it was probably about a year ago that you sent it to Brian and I. And I guess Brian saw the message first. He was like, shoot. And he's like texting me like rapidly. And I was like, oh, dip. Like, this is stupendous. Because like I said, I didn't know there was a video of it. So I had never seen it or since then. It was just something I did. And I went home alone. But nobody holding my hand. Nobody stroking my ego. Just all alone.
You went alone to your fireplace with your Mr. Metskin rug.
With my Mr. Metskin rug.
And what was weird is that Mr. Met was at the QVC that day too.
Yeah, I would have skinned him right there, just to show her how serious I was about winning her heart.
I might have done it already.
Oh no! Why would you do such a thing?
Don't worry, it's the first Mr. Met with the creepy hands.
If it's the creepy one, that's fine. As long as you bury those hands very far away and do not microwave them, so it doesn't become like that Idle Hands movie.
I don't know if anybody actually remembers that movie. That was great.
I think someone does because you just mentioned it.
Besides you and me.
Yeah. It's a phenomenal movie.
No,
Idle Hands is one of the first movies I associate with being on DVD. It was like in that era where we still had VHS, but Blockbuster would have like one rack of DVDs, and it was like Idle Hands and what was the other one? Oh, The Matrix. Like those are like the that's what in my head are the first DVDs.
And just like the first Blu-rays, what was Avatar, right? I think it was like
that makes sense.
Because they were pushing it with the 3D and everything.
Yeah.
Oh man, my brain.
SLC Punk. That's another one for some reason. It just happened.
Salt Lake City. Yeah, Salt Lake City Punk. Because that was the indie one.
Yeah. But that's another one I associate with being like the first DVD.
Yeah, I saw that in Kim's video store in St. Mark's Place.
I remember Kim's. I used to buy so many like promotional CDs that like they would give to like the college radio stations or whatever, and then the guys would be done with them and they just go sell them to Kim's, and like I would walk in like a week later and be like, the soundtrack to Can't Hardly Wait for $3? Perfect. I need this.
I'll give you 4. Thank you.
I've always wanted this song by Feeder in my collection.
That was like when I went to St. John's. I was friends with people in the radio station. They would just give me, hey, we're done with this. Here, have a stack.
Yeah, one of my buddies actually ran the radio station at Queens College for a while, and we would get they'd hook him up with like tickets to live shows and all these CDs. And I remember for my 21st birthday, he had gotten it was like a weekend festival show was happening in Worcester, Massachusetts, and it was legitimately the first day was my 21st birthday. So he's like, bro, he's like, if you drive. He's like, you could just come with me. He was like, the hotel's set up, everything. I was like, awesome, like, definitely. So we went. Who do we get to see? It was like Thursday, Taking Back Sunday, Brand New, Andrew WK, The Used. It was like that whole emo era. Like, so that would have been like 2002. And My Chemical Romance was on the side stage. Like they hadn't blown up yet, so that was kind of cool. So, but yeah, like I used to, anytime I could take advantage of cool stuff that my friends did, I would be more than happy to do so. Like I'm doing right now with my friends in the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, trying to build a brand right behind their back.
That's got to be a shirt. I'm surprised Matt hasn't like came up with that one yet. You know, put that right on the back, building my own brand.
It should be like a little Lego man where the Legos spill out brand.
Quick, let's go make that shirt behind his back.
Yeah. Oh God, the heat that would come from that. Nuclear.
Oh man. Let's see. I know we kept promoting talking about Mets, but the Mets are losing 2-0 to the Phillies right now, and
The
I'm
Mets are
just
losing this team, and I'm not one to, we always use the term small sample size, so I'm not one to like be like, oh, they suck, same old Mets, and Lindor, screw him. Like, I'm not that guy, and I love baseball. So I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. It's one of my favorite things in life. Like, I truly love the game of baseball. I do not like current day baseball. And this is as someone who's going to watch every game regardless. It is very hard to watch a baseball game right now. And I never thought I'd get to that point. I tend to be more analytically inclined. So like, I understand the purpose of using an opener or having a game through bullpenning. I get it. It makes perfect sense to me. It's logical. But for a entertainment product, it just does not work. And the pitching has so far, it's lapped the field on the batters right now. So many of these batters look so overmatched at the plate. I remember like in the 90s, there was a guy on the Brewers, shortstop Jose Hernandez, and he like set the record for most strikeouts in a season with like 187. And like now guys have that by the All-Star break. That's not fun. Striking out does not come off fun on television. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I feel like we have a whole bunch of Ray Ordonez is batting right now.
That's what it feels like. And I mean, it used to be cool that you had like the odd Pete Incaviglia or Rob Deere or Dave Kingman, the home run or strikeout guy. Like, but you had them, but they were like few and far between. And then as we got later into, because Gomez knows how I am with this stuff. But the thing is, like, we had Adam Dunn, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, why would you have Adam Dunn on your team?" Adam Dunn would be a Hall of Famer if he was playing right now.
Shots fired.
Ray Ordonez is one of Gomez's he's probably a top 5 Met for Gomez.
I mean, I loved Ray, for the stuff on the field. I wouldn't ever. Every time I saw him get up to bat, I just went to go get a hot dog.
For the time, that's what shortstop was. It was only around that time where shortstop became a more offensive position. It was very rare that you had a shortstop who could actually hit. Because that was the era where Jeter came in the 96 season, won Rookie of the Year. A-Rod was coming up right behind that. Nomar Garciaparra, like all those guys. But before that, like, think about the shortstops in Mets history. Who was the shortstop before Ray Ordonez?
Let's see. We had
Tony Fernandez. We had Dick Schofield.
Rafael Santana.
Kevin Elster, who went on to hit like 30,000 home runs in like the 96 season with the Texas Rangers because he was all juiced up. But like he was hitting like 041 for the Mets. But hey, he didn't make any errors, so he's cool. There was the Jose Vizcaíno, and then there was there he is.
That was timing right there, Joe.
But that's what the shortstop position was for so long. And then like we kind of got spoiled by seeing all these other teams have these big offensive shortstops. And we were still, giving away Melvin Mora because we desperately needed Mike Bordick.
That was Mike Bordick. Oh man. That's one of the trades that anger me. That and Juan Samuel.
The Juan Samuel trade that was the first instance in my life that I remember crying over sports because I was a big Dykstra fan. And I thought McDowell was really funny because my dad had the VHS of the 1986 A Year to Remember, the Mets highlight video. And my brother and I used to watch the living shit out of that tape. And we'd watch it and rewind it and watch it again. And there's like a whole segment of that video where McDowell teaches you how to do a proper hot foot and he shows you how to roll the gum and everything. And then like Howard Johnson was like his sidekick. And it's like, McDowell's getting under the benches and he's crawling and he's doing this thing with it's like, it is craftsmanship to the utmost level. And so I thought McDowell was just like the man. I'm like, this is the guy I want to go out and drink with, even though I'm only 8 years old and shouldn't be doing such things. But, and then Dykstra, I thought was awesome because he had a starting lineup figure. And that's kind of how I felt like that's where the guys were legit. If they had a starting lineup figure, like that was how you knew that, hey, this guy's not just anyone. He's got a figure. So when they traded those two guys for Juan Samuel, who was a 100 RBI guy in Philadelphia, but then they say, hey, we're not going to play him at his actual position. We're going to move him to center field because we just traded Mookie Wilson to Toronto at the same time.
Yeah, the Mets playing a player out of position, never. They would never do that.
Yeah, that certainly hasn't boded well.
Todd Hundley after they got Piazza, left field. We got poor
Dominic Smith tonight.
Yeah, poor guy. I really think he should be playing first, and they should have got rid of Alonso.
Jeff McNeil playing third all year last year because we have to put Cano somewhere.
Oh, speaking about Cano, I love how everybody keeps forgetting that he's coming back next year.
Yeah, he's got 2 more years.
Yeah, 2 more years at a considerable amount of money.
What is it, 24 a year, I think, right?
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Steve Cohen will just pay it off. Like, you think a businessman is going to pay $48 million to get rid of him?
Honestly, I think in this case, having Cano come back hamstrings your roster in so many things, hamstring this roster right now. The fact that we didn't get a DH this year, absolutely. I don't know if there's any team in the league that hurts more than the Mets, because that was the ready-made solution for everything. We get the DH, Cano suspended for the year. We move Alonso to DH, Dom Smith to first base, Nimmo to left field, and then we go out and sign someone who can really actually play center field like Jackie Bradley Jr. Boom. So many problems solved with one little issue. And the fact that we did not get this, especially after having the DH last year, how do you not bring it back this year? And this is why I hate the owners. I hate the owners. And I'm not a union worker. I wish I was, but anyone who ever sides with the owners is a buffoon. You're a moron. I hate you all. Never side with the owners ever. Don't do it. Don't do it. There is not a clause in his contract that can be voided for his suspension. In fact, there is probably very graphic language in his contract that says it cannot be voided for the suspension, just as there was in Jason Giambi's contract with the Yankees. Remember when they tried terminating his deal, and there was very specific language in there stating that they could not do it in the case of steroids.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I should be giving Joe his own show on this channel.
We call it the shoe store. Come on in. We're always open.
I like it. So, Joe, if you want a show, you got it. Just so you know.
I mean, I could... when you're passionate about something, it's very easy to get animated about it. And I try not to be the hot take guy. I'm not just the guy who says anything for the sake of just saying something ridiculous and then having a bunch of people fire off hate tweets. It's not really my thing. But it's just, you look at some of these things, how were we not able to come to a decision for the good of the game? And listen, I'm as much of a traditionalist as National League fan as anyone. I did not want the DH for the longest time. I like the strategy and the tactics that go into having to put a double switch, but the rest of the game around it is so damn boring that if Michael Conforto is going to hit 060, I definitely don't want to see Marcus Stroman hit 020.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the funny thing, when you say hot take, I hate hearing hot take. That's one of my pet peeves. Everybody uses, we want to hear my take. You want to hear? No, I don't want to hear your take. If I wanted to hear your take, I would, ask for it, but I really don't want to hear a take.
Yeah.
Just so you know, my buddy Graphics Joker, I don't know if
I was going to say, I recognize that name. So I recognize him from Twitter.
Yeah. So Graphics Joker says he was thinking the same, that you should have your own show on here. And then he also says you have a great toy collection behind you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. This is my pride and joy right now. I was a big He-Man fan as a kid. As far back as I can remember, He-Man was a thing, and I was into it. And probably about 2 years ago, I started collecting vintage He-Man stuff again. My big piece, my holy grail, is the Eternia right here. This is only one part of it. The actual playset itself has 3 towers, which I do have. I bought a full complete Eternia last year with the actual box. It's not mint in box, not sealed in box, but it was full, complete, and it just had the box with it. So that was was my holy grail. I always said one day I wanted to own one. The opportunity presented itself. And let me tell you, you have never been as terrified or as scared of anything in your life as I was when my thumb was hovering above that button on PayPal to hit send money now. And I was like, oh, do it. Don't do it. Do it. Don't do it. And oh my God, I had like the Michael J. Fox Parkinson's going on. And finally it was just like, boom. Okay, we did it. Oh God.
Well, I almost sold you the He-Man 20Xs.
Yeah. Well, you had the classics, right?
The classics, and I also had a couple 20Xs too.
Yeah. And so I had never touched classics, Motu classics, and then I ended up buying the Super 7 Snake Mountain playset, which was it's beautiful. It's one of the most I think like it's a piece of toy history. It's like that great. As for the 2000X Masters of the Universe line, I loved that series when it came out. I love that toy line. I know a lot of collectors hate it. I love it. And you had a few pieces, and I was like, oh, I don't really know. I don't really need to start with that one either because I hadn't had any in my collection. And semi-recently, someone slid into my DMs and said, hey, buddy, I heard you're a He-Man guy, and I've got a whole mess of these toys. Would you be interested in them? And it was a whole cornucopia of 2000X He-Man figures. And I said, he's like, let me know if you want any of them. I was like, my man, just what do you want for all of them? Like, don't make me pick and choose here. I don't have anything in this line. It's sitting right at my doorstep. I'm sitting there like a cartoon with a foam at the mouth. Just tell me what you want and I'll send you the money. So I've breached my way through the 2000X now. So now that's becoming a thing.
Well, I mean, if you're collecting the He-Man, you might as well just go all in and collect everything you can with He-Man wise. Well,
that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just buying up everything that I think is cool or that I want or that I think I'll want down the road. Even right now, Mattel has a line out called Masters of the WWE Universe, where it's like a mashup line between wrestlers and He-Man characters. They'll dress up wrestlers as He-Man characters. And it was a line that I definitely was not interested in at the beginning at all. But I was still buying it because I figured it was going to be a FOMO thing for me down the line. Yeah, there's the Dragon Blaster Ricky Steamboat.
Yep. And then
I figured it was going to be a FOMO thing for me down the line. Yep. HWO, Horde World Order, Macho Man Savage. So that would be wave 5, I believe. There's also the Becky Lynch's Tila. And the fourth one is
Hot Rod.
Yes. Battle Armor Roddy Piper. And actually, I got a cool opportunity from my association with the Major Pod again. Smart Mark Sterling actually reached out to me and said, hey, we're going to have Robert Rudman from Mattel on a live Twitch stream to do an unboxing of these. You're like our He-Man guy. Would you want to be involved in this? And I was like, oh, like, yes. Like, someone like me doesn't often get the opportunity to... I've done a lot of really cool stuff in my life, but to get the opportunity to someone who is like, I call Robert now and he's become somewhat friendly with me and, we chat, but like to get that opportunity to be able to reach out to someone who is a legitimate frontline caretaker of one of my biggest fandoms and just talk about it is absolutely awesome. Dom Smith with an RBI single there. Let's do the hand thing. Yep. Here we go. So that's, it's a really cool opportunity for me. You can actually see we have done 2 of these videos now for Wave 5 and Wave 6. Wave 6 was Eva Lynn, Stephanie McMahon. Ram Man is Goldberg. Ultimate Warrior is King Grayskull. So those are both up on youtube.com/Major Pod Network if you're interested in checking those out. They're a lot of fun. They're about an hour long each. And Robert is a very old school Mattel fan, He-Man fan as well as working for Mattel. So between him and I, we have some very nerdy, in-depth He-Man discussion there.
Well, it's great because when I was a kid, I loved He-Man. I remember when all the original stuff came out, because I think when it first came out, I don't even remember how old I was, but I remember I was going nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, because you were in Ozone Park, you might have had one by you, Stevens TV. It was like the appliances, had the toy stores. It was on Queens Boulevard over here.
I remember it, but we were a PC Richards family.
So for people that don't know, Stevens was like the original like Kmart or Walmart that was like a small appliance, hardware, and store that had like toys in it. So I got my first set of Voltron. I got Voltron, 1 and Voltron 3 with the vehicles. I got the LJN WWE guys there. I got G.I. Joe. That was like my childhood
That was
store.
your spot, yeah.
That was my spot. And every time you went in, they always had new stuff. And, seeing He-Man for the first time was just like, what is this? I need this. And, squat little guy, but it was just so awesome that I was like, a Skeletor? What the hell is this? I love this too.
Yeah, here's let's bring him out right here. This is my my vintage battle armor Skeletor. Still looking good, still looking fly with his weapons. The chest plate actually does still work. It takes a little to get back to undamaged territory. Well, maybe it doesn't work anymore. Who knows? It's been sitting up there. There we go.
It had a little fly in it.
Yeah. And maybe that's where that guy went. Where did he go? But for me, my store, we lived right over by the Bell Parkway. So for me, it was we'd go to the Green Acres Mall. My mom, my aunt, and I would be like, that was like, I don't want to say a weekly thing, maybe a monthly thing. They'd be like, all right, we're going to the mall, because that's what you did back then. You'd actually go shopping. And they had Green Acres had a KB Toys. But if you went a little further down, there was a Toys R Us. And getting to go to Toys R Us was better than going to fucking Disneyland.
Oh, my grandmother lived in Brooklyn, and we used to go to the Green Acres Mall and the Toys R Us over there for like my birthday. When my parents would be like, all right, go down these 2 aisles. You can pick whatever you want. Just don't go too crazy.
Yeah.
I remember I had the Dukes of Hazzard, General Lee, the 3 3/4 inch figures.
Yep.
And I had the He-Man. I actually missed that. I wish somebody opened up a toy store again. I know Toys R Us might be coming back again, but I don't think it. I'm surprised like Amazon or something.
Is that right? Did they just pull Strowman?
Did they? I'm a little
that's what
behind.
David's saying in the chat, and yeah, I'm a little behind too. I'm just getting back from commercial. 60 pitches, 64. That's
pitches.
Okay, let me tell you about. I love Strowman. How do you feel about Strowman?
Well,
you don't like his online persona.
No, that's not it. If the way he is mentally, I don't care like if he's like the way he is online or how he's a little confrontational at times, but at the same time wants to be, very I'm cool with that. My thing is when he starts talking a big game and didn't do anything for the Mets for like the last 2 seasons, where he's like, yeah, I'm this good, but he didn't prove it in a Mets uniform.
I don't care. I think when you're at that level, if you don't believe it, you don't belong there. And the fact is, if you are unwilling to say it, I feel like him putting himself out there is like, I don't want to use the word brave, but it's almost, I don't know if it's motivation for himself, but he's putting it out there, knowing full well that if he shits the bed, they're gonna come running for him. And I love the fact that he's like, yo, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna kick ass. And I think he's been phenomenal so far. I loved what I saw from him in spring training. I went out, I looked at Strowman, and this is collector side of me now. After getting lucky with purchases of DeGrom rookie cards last year, I looked at Strowman. I'm like, this is a guy who I think, I always liked him with the Blue Jays anyway. I thought he was good. He always showed me good stuff. I feel like he's an easy guy to root for. He's a Long Island guy. He's like that undersized underdog guy. I went out and bought like 100 Stroman rookie cards during spring training this year. Like I've got autographs. I've got PSA slabbed. A 600. That's and you're pulling him at 64 pitches. Like, what are we doing?
Now, did they pull him?
And the Phillies have nobody in this lineup tonight. Like, this is unbelievable. Gregorius is out. Harper's out. Real Muto's out. Like, who are they playing? Pat Burrell?
Givner, is there a reason why they pulled him? Was it just because of the pitches? We'll see. We'll see what Dave says. He's pretty good with that. But getting back to him, I'm like the fact that he was talking without backing it up. I was like, yeah. But once he started backing it up, I'm like, all right, you can talk as much as you want now.
I love when a professional athlete is going to go. I mean, it's so how easy is it to sit there and say nothing? You know, it's very easy to be in that position and whatever, you get paid well, and I don't hold that against them. They bring in a lot of money, but it's very easy to just say there and everyone's stumped on it. Unbelievable. All right. Thanks for that insight, Gare. It's Derek Jeter was in the league 20 years, did 3 interviews every night, never said a damn thing. So I appreciate when an athlete's going to put himself out there and knowing full well that, like I said, if things don't go well, he's going to have to get the heat for it, whether that's online or, from the media or whoever. I mean, not everyone can handle that. Look at Josh Tolley, what was on Twitter for 11 minutes before he had enough of it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm for all, the swagger, the grand, being grandiose, believing in yourself. There was a disconnect with him. I don't know, because maybe I didn't feel like he wasn't in the Mets uniform enough, enough.
Yeah, that's like one of those, are you a real Met things? And
it wasn't even a real Met thing. It was that he didn't endear himself to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it was just something that
I get it. But at the same time, once you put on my shirt, you're my guy. That's it. Unless like don't bring me who do I hate? Chipper Jones. Like, don't bring me Chipper Jones, and I'm not gonna like. Here's the best example: Tom Glavine. No, I love Bryce Harper. Tom Glavine. When they signed Tom Glavine, number one, I wanted to go and hate this man every day. I hate you, Tom Glavine. Number two, I was terrified that Tom Glavine was going to be the person to throw the first no-hitter in team history. And he had a couple instances where he would get to like the 7th, and I'd be like, please, God, somebody get a fucking hit here, because there is no way in hell that I want to go to my grave knowing that fucking Brave threw a no-hitter from my team. Like, how fucking dare you, Tom Glavine? The ball's on you to think you can walk into my house on my pitching mound and throw a no-hitter for my team? Fuck you, Tom Glavine. And then to put it really over the top, I was at that game in 2007 against the Marlins, final day of the season. We win, we're into the playoffs. Walking into that building that day, were you there that day?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that felt like a playoff game. From the second you got to like Jackson Heights, you felt it for blocks. The energy, the mass, like the people were out of their minds, and the volume was like turned up to 11. People going nuts, and before you even had a chance to like really like catch your breath from singing the national anthem, this man had given up 7 goddamn runs. Oh, you couldn't even give us a couple minutes.
My cousin Mets Police calls him a Cylon, because like Battlestar Galactica, when they had the sleeper agents, he thinks that he was a brave sleeper agent sent in to destroy the Mets.
He was Vince Russo. Vince sent him to WCW to take us down from the inside.
That's a good analogy too. So I got something to make you laugh, since I did the QBC dating game with you when we were talking about the tights, Brian's tights.
Yeah.
And
Oh boy. And that's the 7-line shirt
with the 7-line logo on the
yeah. And is that the belt you had made for your wedding? I know you had
Yep.
those belts made for all your groomsmen. Okay.
Yep. I did that just because I was feeling like a total jerk that day, and I was just like, all right, I lost weight. Let's see if I can fit in these. I fit in them, and I'm like, all right, let's throw the belt on and throw the shirt on.
Spandex stretches, so
I actually like I wouldn't show that picture, but I'm like, I don't care anymore.
No, you shouldn't. I wrestled for years in trunks and boots. I was a fat, ravishing Rick Rude known as Maximus Sex Power. Why? Why not?
I mean, I was so bummed out that like I kept trying to talk you into like having me walk you out with my buddy Randy from Read the Apple, like walking somebody else out.
What happened to him? I used to love the Read the Apple Twitter account. That was like one of my, because he would put up like some of these like wild, I think my favorite meme that he ever put up, and this is going back, so I wanna hope it's still him. But he did like the Mets as the Stonecutters from The Simpsons. And
it was him and my cousin.
That one was like one of the all-time greats. If you still have that or you can find it, that needs to be like tweeted out ASAP, because that was an all-timer. Like I'm not like overly active in the whole Mets Twitter game. Like I'm there and I'm tweeting, but like I don't get too involved like some of the other people, but I'm always lurking, watching, judging, look at the baby. You know, like, so that was one of like the all-time favorites.
Yeah, he was actually my best man at my wedding too. Me and him became friends through Twitter.
Yeah,
and
I believe it.
We became really close, and you know, he's my best friend, and he's like you. Like I can make a reference, you'll get it. I can make the most obscure reference, he'll get it. So it's great. And the funny thing is now, readtheapple.com is an education site.
Really?
He never re-upped it, and somebody just grabbed it and became an education site.
Hey, now I applaud him for his work in educating the future of Mets fans.
Yeah, it's
just don't teach them about Tom fucking Glavine. We're not having that. Fuck him.
You know what? If I'll see if he still has it, and I'll just tell him to send it to me, because he even changed his name on Twitter. He's not Read the Apple anymore.
Yeah, like he just kind of disappeared. Like he was all over. I used to be so entertained by his tweets. He was like one of my favorite accounts.
Yeah, we would be up to like 3:00 in the morning, just like riffing on stuff. And the fact that he's the one that designed the Party City deck.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even though the Mets said he didn't, he was the one that did. And one of the Mets executives that's no longer there, she gave us a wink and a nod when he goes, "That you guys just took my design." She's like, "No."
Shocking.
And just like I moved I photoshopped the apple, the original home run apple, from underneath where the bullpen is to where it is now. And I was like, "You guys took that from me too, right?" No.
That wasn't so. 2009, this stadium opens up. What a colossal collection of just gross incompetence and mistakes that building was at opening.
Yeah,
like was there nobody with even the slightest bit of common sense working for that team that said, "Guys, just gonna throw this out there. Maybe no."
Yeah, well, me and my cousin were on them all the time. The fact
all the time. That's really around the time I heard about Mets Police, was probably around that time, because he was just taking them to task for like everything, and it like he was right. Like especially like, and that's how I always know I'm getting older, because I find myself agreeing more and more with at Mets Police. Like that's how you know that the aging curve has started to hit. But especially at that time, everything he said was dead on. Like I hated the black jerseys, you know.
Yeah, like, people, and like I understand the nostalgia of the black jerseys, but people still
it's generational. And I get it from that perspective. And you know, the same thing is My brother is 3 years younger than me. He was a Ninja Turtles fan. I was a He-Man fan. I like Ninja Turtles, but it wasn't my thing. He likes the black jerseys. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And David just said something in the chat now. Nothing against Jackie Robinson. 100%. As far as I'm concerned, that's the Butch Husky Rotunda.
Yep.
That's what I call it every time I walk in.
So I'm throwing up a picture right now. This is one of the things that was so horrible about the Mets and the Wilpons. They actually got this wrong.
Hold on, let me see. The Mets are win 8-5. First baseman Keith Hernandez and Sid Fernandez. Did Sid win that game?
Nope.
Was it McDowell, right?
Yeah, so they got their own history wrong.
Oh, perfect.
And I've actually been this I got published in the Wall Street Journal. So this was like the first time this is when I was with Mets Police, and it was like one of our first big things, and we're like, you guys can't even get this right. You had this done. Who proofread this? you don't you put it in a museum now after a whole season. It was just run so poorly, and the stuff that they did was just ridiculous.
I mean, even the Mo Vaughn Rotunda, the Ron Hodges Rotunda. Hey, listen, I'm always going to say it's the Butch Husky Rotunda. One of these days, those awesome spring training starts are going to carry over to the regular season, and Butch Husky's going to hit 45 home runs and knock in 130. And he'll have, for you stat heads out there, he'll have a OPS plus of 220.
220. All those different stats I don't even bother with. I just can't. I got too much in my head to begin with.
I think it offers it's a good way of simplifying ways to make comparisons across eras, which is very helpful. It doesn't tell you the whole story, but it helps make it more straightforward. So you can compare something like Jacob deGrom ERA plus. Basically, an average pitcher has an ERA plus of 100. So if this guy has an ERA plus of 150, he's about 50% better than your average pitcher. It's very easy to follow when you think of it just like that. When deGrom's up there and now his ERA plus before his last start, I'm sure it's not as high now, but it's still relatively high. It's probably in the 700s right now. So now you're going to tell me this guy is that much better. And I'm like, listen, not only do I see this stat, and Lindor strikes out looking again. Thank you, sir. But not only do I look at the stat, but then I watch deGrom pitch. So I get to do the old eye test, the old scout thing, like I'm going to see Steve Nebraska in Mexico right now. I do one of those and I say, you know what? I do believe Jacob deGrom is that much better than the average pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Well, I mean, I just look at the way he pitches. I'm like, he's shutting down everybody. You know what it is? I also think that I really hate math and numbers, and I've always hated it. So maybe that's why I can't stand stats.
I find that funny because as a baseball fan, especially as a kid, where you didn't have stats and numbers available to you on the regular basis, that's part of the reason why I actually love math. Is because in the early days, you would have the graphic come up, Keith Hernandez would have his stats at the beginning of the game. But when he'd come up again, it would just say 0 for 1, pop out. By his third at-bat, it would say 1 for 2, pop out single. But you didn't have updated averages. You didn't have updated statistics. And I was the kid who would sit there and be like, oh, well, I have to know what Keith Hernandez's average changed to because it's the 7th inning now and he's had 2 at-bats already. I want to know. And the thing that really did it for me was I'm a Nintendo kid. I grew up playing NES. And then when things went to like Sega Genesis and you had like Sports Talk Baseball was like a hugely important game, but it didn't have stats. You had the players, you had the teams, but it didn't have stats. So I would sit there and play my season and have my notebook next to me where I would record the result of every at-bat. That way, after every game, I could collate the stats and have updated stats. And had to figure out how to do batting average. I had to figure out how to formulate an ERA. I had to count strikeouts and do this. And then I'd play like 3 games or something, get tired, take my notebook and then go sit down. And then not only would I finish my counting stats, but now I wanted to do my projections. Well, if I'm Bill Gullickson and right now I'm 4-2 with a 2.6 ERA, what does that project to over a full season for good old Bill Gullickson of the Detroit Tigers and Sports Talk Baseball? I needed to know these things. And that's why math makes so much sense to me nowadays, especially because you know what else it's good for? Money. And where there's money, there's a sack to hold it. And we are not above donations to fill it.
I was thinking the same exact thing as Gomez. Insert the Simpsons nerd gif.
Hey, nerds run the world. We rich, bitch.
Yeah, I just when there's like stats and numbers, I just glaze over. That's why with the QBC, Dan does all the paperwork behind the scenes, and I do all the production stuff.
Well, I mean, that's a case whenever you're involved in any kind of venture with other people, you try to play to everyone's strengths. Everyone's got something they're better at than someone else. And no matter what you think you're the best at, there's always someone better. But you try to play to everyone. And that goes with like anything. When you're on a team, obviously, if you're a better first baseman than me, I'm not going to stick you in left field unless I'm the Mets, of course. You see, you didn't know I was going that way, but I sprung it on you.
That was a good one.
They don't call me the Raja of references for nothing, my man.
Man, yeah, I got to think of the king of catchphrases.
I mean, I'm like more like the corporal of catchphrases, the wizard of words, the Lothario of lyrics. These are all things that people call me out on the streets. But
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm big on the streets, over on the streets.
Did I ever tell you what when I was working on Gotham a couple of seasons ago, I ran into a PA, and he had to get into the van with me because another PA walked into a jib arm, kind of like the thing at FWF, and he ended up cutting himself. So we're on Staten Island. I had to take him to a hospital. So I turn around to the kid and I go, you shouldn't just be juicing yourself to impress the ladies. So the second PA turns around and he goes, "Did you just say juicing yourself?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You're a wrestling fan?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I used to be a wrestler." I'm looking at him. I'm like,
"Oh my God, you're the big boss man."
Wow, you lost a lot of weight. But actually, he did lose a lot of weight. It was DJ Fat Pat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I turn around to him. I'm looking at him like DJ Fat Pat. And I said it to him. He goes, "Holy, you really do know who I am." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, you dropped like 2 other DJ Fat Pats, but yeah, you're DJ Fat Pat. And he's like, I can't believe that you know who I was. I'm like, "I saw you wrestling in my parish center, a couple of years ago. And then I think you might have even been at the QBC one year." Huh. He goes, "Yeah, I did come." I was like, small world, just like how we were saying before.
Yeah, Pat actually did. If you ordered the FWF show that we did on April 8th, it released, there also was a documentary attached to that if you bought a certain level, where it was like a behind the scenes, like making of documentary. And that was filmed entirely by DJ Fat Pat.
Pat, I love Pat. Me and him, like, we're always texting. He's always asking me stuff that I know in production, and then I hit him up about stuff in production. But it was just ridiculous. Like, it was such a small world. Then I text Brian. I'm like, "Brian, so Fat Pat's telling me that, he doesn't believe that I know you." He goes, "Hold on a second." And then he texts Pat. And he's like, "Hey, Pat, I know Keith." And he's like, how is this possible?
It is a small world. And like I said, when you have so many things that kind of intersect, like wrestling, and wrestling's its own little niche. Baseball now has become a niche as opposed to when we were kids and baseball was like everywhere. When you have that crossover between niches, and then obviously working in film and that's now you've really whittled down the amount of people who check all the boxes there.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I forgot that I even had this when we were just talking about the different price levels.
I think I got the best signature on that. The Mighty Yokozuna, I think, is the number one, like, best aesthetically pleasing signature.
Yeah, I think yours is the greatest, one of the greatest. The worst has to be Stang.
I think the worst is Nick Stapp.
Did he sign it as Nick Stapp, or did he sign
that's his Nick Stapp signature.
Oh, I you know what? It's so horrible. I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, that's the Nick Stapp signature. It just looks like two W's. I think the best one to me is Kinnick, because Kinnick has this thing. I don't know if he's just overly caffeinated 24/7, but he shakes. So they make the joke that he's like one of the old WCW vibrating figures from San Francisco toy makers. But when he was signing the things, his hand was so I stood next to him and videotaped him signing the things, and I looked at Brian. I go, "Yo, each and every one of these is a 101 with Kinnick's signature."
He was tweeting to Padour on Twitter the other night when they were talking about, like, if you had an autobiography, what would it be? And I forgot what Kinnick said. I go, I can't believe you didn't go Kinnick, shaken, not stirred.
He's a legend, that guy. Number one, such a good dude, and number two, he's almost like the mafia guy you go to whenever you need anything. It's like, yo, can we get this? Oh, Kinnick can do it. Oh, can we get this? Kinnick can do it. And he always comes through. He's like batting 1,000. Like, he's just unbelievable with, like, the amount of stuff thrown at him. And he's just like, oh, yeah, I could do it. And then he just turns around and does it. Like, and it ain't no thing.
He's like, I got a guy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Every time. And he always does.
That's like, I'll get a text every now and then from Brian. Hey, I need something Mets related. Can you find it? I'm like, it's going to take me a little time, but I got it. Like, he was looking for a Cologne jersey.
For the longest time.
So what I did was I found a Cologne jersey in Europe. Actually, it was a blank jersey in Europe from that year with the Mr. Met patch and everything.
Oh, okay.
I got it shipped over here. It was like $60, but it was a legit real one that somebody had in Europe. Then I went over to Stitches and they put Cologne on it for me for free. So I was like, here you go. Authentic jersey, $50.
I remember Brian used to walk around, and I almost feel bad for picking on him for this because it was a gift from his wife. But at the same time,
the knockoff jersey,
the knockoff Joe McEwing jersey, I saw it. Horrible.
I gave him a Joe McEwing jersey. I had one in my storage locker. I'm like, dude, I'm sending it to you. Just take it. I know it's not the right number, but just take it.
Yeah, he's all about that Joe McEwing 47.
Yeah, and then we actually
and
had
then you know why you had to change it? Because scumbag Tom Glavine came to town.
It all goes back to Glavine.
Son of a bitch.
So
I hope Tom Glavine watch. I hope you're watching right now, Tom Glavine. You're horrible on the Braves telecast.
I'll tell you this: if we get Tom Glavine for a QBC, I'm putting you as the host.
Oh my god! So please don't do that. I feel like if I was ever in the same room as Tom Glavine, like, it would be like Marmaduke seeing the mailman, like, and I would have no choice but to bite him.
You versus Glavine, that's when you have your next wrestling match.
That might be it. I may, like, at that point, like, I'll know Tom Glavine's in the building and I'll just show up in my trunks and boots and be like, we are doing this. You were a hockey player, Tom Glavine. All I heard about was how you were drafted higher than Luke Robitaille. Drop the gloves, bitch. Let's go.
That's awesome. I'm going to ask you a couple more things because I love talking to you. Just so you know, I really don't want to, end this, but we've been talking for like an hour and a half already.
It goes so quick when you're having fun.
It does.
And I am the facilitator of fun, so it makes sense.
So, now we might have a couple of different players that we're going to be doing a Q&A with. If you had a chance of an early 2000s, late 90s player, who would you want to talk to? And
Desi Relaford.
Desi Relaford.
Desi Relaford. When I think early 2000 Mets, I think the most synonymous person with those teams is Desi Relaford.
So I've been teasing this, and I'm gonna actually see how many people are actually paying attention to this, the show. But there was a certain Met that made a pretty big catch in the 2000s.
Yeah, I remember such a catch happening.
So that's supposedly going to be the next Q&A we have.
I actually have his jersey.
Do you really?
I do.
That's awesome. Maybe I'll bring you in as one of the, somebody to come in, ask a couple of questions. You can wear your jersey.
It's that. I think I used to collect jerseys for a while. So like every time I would find one, I'd be like, oh, I have to have this. So I have like a Fernando Tatis jersey. I have a Lastings Millage. I have an Andy Chavez. I have a Jeff Francoeur. I have a John Maine. At one point, I did have an Omir Santos. And I've moved so much that has like been one of the sacrifices in the move at some point. Don't know what happened to it. Was my Omir Santos. Bubba Trammell would have been phenomenal. I don't even know if that existed though. Like these were all like bought at the stadium. Like every single one was bought at Shea Stadium City Field. And I got Omir Santos. I was so hyped because I'm like, I gotta be the only person outside of Mama and Papa Santos who bought this shirt.
Well, that's like I was wearing an Edgin jersey. I got one of his game used jerseys, and his wife saw me. She goes, "You're the only person besides my husband wearing an Edgin jersey." I'm like,
so I can actually say I did consider buying an Edgin jersey because my favorite number is 66. My favorite athlete of all time is Mario Lemieux. So every time I was ever on a team, I always, what number do you want? 66. Even to this day, everything, like if I can get 66 on something, I get 66. Edgin was the first Met to ever wear 66. So I was like, I feel like I may need a Josh Edgin jersey at some point. And then I was like, I cannot possibly justify this. But there was a man across Queens who apparently did justify buying a Josh Edgin jersey.
Well, it was cheaper than if I went out and got an authentic jersey. So the game used jersey was cheaper than going out to get a new authentic jersey.
I believe it.
So that's why I bought it, because I wanted the patch that was on it.
What patch was it?
I don't remember. I got so much shit.
That is a phenomenal.
I was in San Diego a couple years ago, met dude wearing a Jose Lobaton jersey. I had to approach the guy, became friends with him.
Turns out what David actually left out, because he must have ran out of space there, was that it actually was Jose Lobaton.
And his family.
Yeah.
Well,
I take a shot. I wish I had a Mike Baxter jersey, same high school as both me and Media Goon. So, like, obviously, I was all in on backs. I did buy the 7-line shirt that they put out, though, where it was like Pride of Whitestone, Baxter 23. So I had that shirt.
I was actually at the no-hitter.
This is a great story. I know we're trying to wrap up here, but this is for I don't know how many people are watching this, but you're about to get a hell of a story. That whole week, I went to every game of that homestand. And the day Santana was pitching against the Cardinals, I think we had played the Phillies right before that. And there had been a rain delay, and I ended up sitting in the Caesars Club for 2 hours, and Jeremy Hefner hit a home run and all this. And I was like, the Santana day was dreary. I'm like, oh, it's going to pour. I'm not going to go. It was the one game of the homestand I didn't go to. And I am super overly, enormously superstitious. And I've wanted a Met no-hitter. The only thing that would have surpassed a Met no-hitter for me would be winning another World Series, because I was not old enough at the time to appreciate 86. So I still feel like I've never had my World Series. So as this game is going on, I'm watching Santana pitch, and you see the pitch counts going up, and you're like, oh, there's no way. There's no way they're going to let him continue along this path. Then it gets to the 4th inning, and the 5th inning. Now it gets to the 6th inning, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't get out of my chair now. And I'm like strict about this. I can't get out of my chair. So I'm like sitting there, 7th inning. And now I got to whiz horribly because I just been crushing Pabst Blue Ribbons all night. That now I got to take a massive whiz, but I refuse to get up because I am not going to be responsible for ruining this no-hitter. So we used to subscribe to the Daily News in my household, and my dad would take the TV guide that came with the Sunday paper, so it was newspaper, and have it next to the chair. That way when he watched TV, he had this TV guide. And I look around, I take the TV guide, I lay it out on the floor right under me, and I just decide that I will not ruin the no-hitter, but I will pee all over the floor in my family's living room in an attempt to not ruin the no-hitter. So I'm sitting on this recliner just like this, just like peeing everywhere, just because I refuse to ruin the no-hitter. Because you know what? That's what they make mops for. And when he finally finished the game, I was like, holy smokes, thank heavens. But now I didn't know where to like get up and step because there was pee all over the place. But it was worth it. It was worth every bit. So everybody should thank me for preserving Johan Santana's no-hitter. It wasn't Mike Baxter's catch. It was me peeing on the floor of my family's house that kept it going because I was too superstitious.
Great show tonight. It's all shoes. I have nothing to do with it. Well, what the no-hitter, Read the Apple, actually, we were in the Promenade Club, and we went in there because it was chilly, and his wife wanted to go in and warm up a little bit. So we went in, and all of a sudden, like you said, we didn't want to jinx it. So we just sat where we were sitting. I went to get up. I'm like, I want to go back to the seats. Randy pulled out a plastic knife on me and threatened to cut me.
Yeah.
He goes, you ain't going anywhere. So I kind of know what you
100%. I believe in that stuff. You know, I played team sports my whole life growing up. So there's just some things that, listen, even if you're not on the team, you believe in, like, and with something like the Mets, yeah, you've never played for them, but you've been around so long, you feel like you have the vested interest in this team. You know, like any other super fandom where you believe that you're part of it.
Bases loaded, just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, and then my ticket from the no-hitter.
I actually, about a month ago, I went out and I bought a ticket stub from the no-hitter because ticket stubs, graded ticket stubs are becoming a thing now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to be a guy who goes out and buys like, oh, this was the game Dave Winfield got his 3. I hate Dave Winfield. I mean, I don't hate him. He never like kicked my dog or anything. I mean, he never gave up 7 runs in the first inning in a win-or-go-home game on the last day of the season like fucking Tom Glavine. Definitely. I do have the ticket stub to that game, though. I don't think I'm going to get it graded. All right. But I said if there's one ticket stub I want, it's the no-hitter. So I actually, with probably about a month ago, I went on eBay and found one.
Yeah, I have 2 of them. I have the one I have here, and I have one put away. So Givner wants to know, how do we follow L Shoes?
Basically, you just get behind me and then just keep walking when I do.
But you got to play the trombone music behind them as you're walking.
Yeah. Or actually, I would prefer if you could like sing me something nice. Like, give me some good walking music, like a little Taylor Swift, like. Baby, we're the new romantics. Come on, come along with me. Heartbreak is our national anthem. We sing it proudly. We're too busy dancing to get knocked off our feet. Baby, we're the new romantics. The best people in life are free. You know, there's a good bop to that. So I'm going to probably increase my pace, get more steps in, which is good for the heart. Got to take care of your heart. I got my doctor, Dr. Pete, is my cardiologist, and he tells me all the time, take care of your heart.
Well, the other way we could get you to start running is having that creepy Mr. Met with the human hands chasing you.
I would take off like a bat out of hell if I saw creepy old original Mr. Matt coming over for me.
Just so you know, your dislike for the black jerseys won Givner over.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a fan. I don't want them back. Do I own a black jersey? Yes. Do I wear it? No. Actually, I will say this. I wore it one time recently because it was the only David Wright jersey I owned. And I wore it to a game. I can't believe they called that a strike. I mean, it was there, but I'm shocked that he got the call because it's familiar and he deserves to get no calls. But it was the last time I was going to get to see David Wright. So I was like, in case he retires, I'm going to wear a David Wright jersey. And this was the one I had. And then Brian Myers, I sent him a picture of me. I was in DC, I got a road game against the Nationals. Sent him a picture, and he's like, "Oh, thought you hate the black jerseys. Oh, what a scumbag! You wear the black jersey." I was like, "Oh, screw you."
You know what? Maybe we can get him and you on here with me one night just to shit talk each other.
I wouldn't expect Brian's bare minimum. So that is a tall test. That's going to be like getting the groundhog to come up, every week.
All right. Shoes, promote anything you want to promote right now.
Yeah, go ahead and follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Joe Shoes. Apparently there's multiple Joe Shoeses, so I had to go with the Joe Shoes. Subscribe to my YouTube, youtube.com/Joe Shoes. Like I said, it's a bunch of videos of me doing food reviews, me doing vintage toy unboxings, other toy unboxings. It's just me having fun doing the stuff I like to do. Like I said, I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. I'm just this chubby little cub all stuffed with fluff, and I'm just here to put smiles on faces and memories in hearts.
Joe's awesome. Follow him, subscribe. It's great. You guys are going to be enthralled by the videos. I'm not even joking around. I wish I was able to pull off some of the stuff he does, but I got to worry about my heart and my health.
Listen, many are called, but few are chosen, my man.
The chosen few.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. I'm going to put you in the waiting room for a second so I can say goodbye to you off air. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, guys, thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Now we'll hope to see you all soon at the game.
All right. I'll be right with you, Shoes. All right, guys. Thank you for watching along. I'm going to head off. Hopefully, whoever my next guest is can stack up to the Shoes. And all right, I'll see you guys next week.